Check 1 2. Check check. Check 1 2. Check check.
Okay. I just wanted to give everybody kind of the 2-minute call before we kind of get things started this morning. So we'll try to get started here in a couple of minutes. Thank you. I can do that, you know. Well, good morning, everyone. I think everybody is here and in position. I want to thank you all for being here. Want to introduce, before we get started, a few special guests. I know we have some members of the House, and we have the Chairman of Higher Education from the Senate here, Mr. Billy Hickman. I want to thank you for being here. We're always glad to have members of the Senate close by. And then Representative Lehman Franklin, I saw him come in, I think. He's here somewhere, thank you. And then our Rules Chairman, Representative Butch Parrish. Mr. Chairman, thank you also for being here. And then the gentleman that commissioned us and appointed us to this committee, and I want to thank him for being here and appreciate his leadership throughout this state. Mr. Speaker, you've done an excellent job, and we're honored to have you here this morning. Would you like to bring words?
So good morning. Welcome to Georgia Southern, and welcome to Southeast Georgia. Pretty cool spot. A lot of good stuff going on down here. Our delegation from Bullock County, if I may, is of course is Chairman Butch Parrish, who hails from Swainsboro, but he represents part of Swainsboro. Of course, Lehman is a native of Bullock County and a businessman here in the county. Billy Hickman, longtime resident of Bullock County and a businessman here and very much respected, and his wife Joanne is here with us also. We appreciate their support for our part of the state, and certainly a lot of good things going on here, and we're working very hard to make sure we continue that progress. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yes, sir. And if you can wrap this committee up in just a couple of meetings, I have a couple of other pressing issues I need you to solve. One of them's energy, so we'll talk about that later too. Yes, sir. But that impacts us all. But certainly, higher education and what we're doing and the focus we bring to higher ed. I've already learned something this morning talking to the president of Georgia Southern, Kyle Marrero, as we come in, and I think that's what we do. And we're not bashful about that. We can talk about anything in the House, right, Representative Earhart? We can talk about anything, but we talk about it after we gather the facts. We may talk a little bit about it and expose some of the things we're not fully informed on, but we do know that we need to gather the facts if we're going to affect and change sometimes, potentially, but deal with good policy for what Georgia is about and citizens of this state. So I think that's what the charge is, Mr. Chairman, in a very broad sense, and you've always done a great job on certain leading ways and means, but certainly as you've dealt with study committees over the years and working groups that you've dealt with. So you understand the drill. Members, the members here, all of you from USG and TCSG and from the General Assembly, from the House, y'all also are veteran members. This is not y'all's first time to dwell down deeply into issues that we need to talk about sometimes and that we need to make sure we're in the right space. So as I understand it, we moved away from the quota system, which a couple of years ago when I graduated from this fine institution, and you too, Billy. So we were under the quota system, and certainly the semester system has served us well, and I've understood a lot about the semester system, and certainly TCSG is on the semester system as well, and some other fine universities, fine colleges in our state are also on the quota system. And so I'm looking forward to hearing and learning the experiences everyone's having. It's how we do what the job is, and that's serve the young people and to educate Georgians to make sure we maintain our quality of life here in Georgia. Most of you in this room know, but I will talk to you briefly about what opportunities students have in Southeast Georgia that are important to me. Of course, Georgia Southern University, the flagship of Southeast Georgia, does a great job. President Marrero's here, and certainly a long history of service to the community and to the state. East Georgia College is also based in Swainsboro, but has a campus here as well. They do a great job as well as accommodating many students here and working in conjunction, I believe, as it should with Georgia Southern. Geechee Technical College, Savannah Technical College. Both of them are in this area. Of course, Geechee is right here in Bullock County, and we've invested about $20 million in a project for Geechee that deals with robotics from members of the General Assembly. That is a crucial part of our workforce development here in Southeast Georgia. So we're pretty excited about that. Lori Durd and her team, and Ryan Foley, who was previously out of Geechee, is now the new president at Savannah Technical College. So we appreciate the wisdom of those selections as well. I believe that we need to have a seamless working ability between the technical college system of Georgia and our university system. Thanks to our folks from USG that are here. Chancellor Perdue certainly gets it. He's a man of wisdom, a man of great insight. We appreciate his leadership and y'all's as well, all the staff and members of his team there. So thank you for what y'all are doing in ensuring we have the proper folks in place to do that job. And that's what's very important to me, because the world has changed a little bit on what the mission, I believe, of higher ed is. Georgia Southern has a mission, is well known for its engineering graduates and the immediate demand for those graduates. So we can learn from the different ways that these different schools or institutions are preparing their graduates, and that's what's important as we prepare to try to meet the tremendous demand, especially all over our state, but especially tremendous demand we're seeing in Southeast Georgia right now with Hyundai, Gulfstream, the ports, everything that's happening, and the curriculum is addressing those needs from our technical college system and from our university system partners. But there's always room to discuss, talk about the things we need to be doing that we're doing well, improving on the things we're not doing so well. So, Mr. Chairman, members, I hope you'll keep an open mind about what we're doing, the good things and things that we can maybe address. Technology is changing. This changes everything in our lives. every day. When I woke up this morning and picked up 3 grandgirls, and she went in and installed an app on her phone to go pick up breakfast at Chick-fil-A, and had her dad's credit card pay for it too. It worked really well. I said, I was trying to give her some money. She said, no, Dad's got it. I said, we're good. Dad's got it. But you know, the online education, that it's an option now because of the great work and the commitment from the General Assembly to make sure broadband is equal across our state. Still work to be done, but we're working very diligently there to make sure that's available to every potential student in our state. So part of the puzzle. The other thing is certainly AI. That's a part of, and I'm certainly willing to want to hear and learn about how the higher schools of higher education, technical college, the university, the colleges are utilizing AI as we prepare our students for the workplace and workforce, and to have what we talk about all the time is that quality of life, to make sure that Georgia continue to be the best place to live, work, and raise a family. I know Chairman Parrish is working very diligently, not right now because we have great opportunities because of great cooperation, Mr. Chairman, in the healthcare field in our state. Georgia Southern's a leader in combination with, in conjunction with partnership with the Medical College of Georgia. We're making great strides right here in Southeast Georgia to help fill those slots in rural Georgia and across our state. Chairman Parrish has been in numerous states to see what they're doing on their GMEs, their graduate medical education opportunities. So we keep those graduates in our state for their residencies. We know that's one of the keys. Those are the type practical solutions that we can talk about. It may not be just a quarter and semester system, but I'm not sure this impacts it, that the ability to maintain those students here in whatever manner that is. I think we need to be open to new solutions, new ideas, new ways of doing business, if you will. You know, every deal's a new deal sometimes, but certainly that means that we look at what we've been doing in the past, we reflect on what our practices have been, and we're very successful because higher ed in Georgia is certainly recognized around this country, and I think around the world, as being a leader. Certainly I was, Dr. Marrero, I guess you drew the short straw and let Annalee head over to Ireland. And so they're going to be at the Wexford campus, I think, tomorrow. So I think that certainly, I know the other universities in the state have those connections, but it certainly, I think, points out the successes we're having and how we're recognized as one of the top states in this country as we work together to make sure we prepare our young people for a bright future. And so sometimes, you know, we retrain some folks for a bright future, and that's part of what we do too. So we should have the ability to look into all of those scenarios. And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be very interested to follow the work of this committee and the ideas that emanate from it as we look at all the possibilities that will come along and allow us to really serve Georgians the very best we can. So y'all work hard, bring home the facts, and we'll make good decisions. Thank you. And Chairman of Higher Ed, Chuck Martin, and we appreciate your work in the past, and Senator Hickman in the Senate. Appreciate what your committees do as well. So thank you all for that. And we'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman. You have a question for me? I talked about a lot, probably 10 minutes longer than what you wanted me to talk, but I had the microphone.
No, sir. We'll try to deliver a good work product to you. We appreciate the charge you've given us, and I want to thank you not only for your leadership, but your particular brand of leadership and the priorities that you've set forth, and the discernment and the compassion and the deep thought that you have given to so many of the things that we're pursuing in the House. So thank you so much.
Get her done.
Yes,
thank
sir.
You.
That brings us to introducing our committee members, and I'm gonna, if that's okay, let everybody do that for themselves. But I know Representative Earhart, would you mind open up with a word of prayer, and then you can start us off.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, just thank you so much for the opportunity to come together today in this beautiful institution, in this gorgeous corner of one of the most beautiful states in the nation. Lord, we are so grateful for the opportunity to come and learn. Thank you for all of the leaders that are here representing all the various institutions and agencies. We know, Lord, they do this work because they care about Georgia and they care about higher education in this state. What a blessing it is, Lord, to live in a state, with just stellar options for higher education. Such a wonderful blessing. Lord, be with us here today. Have your hand on each one of us as we share and as we learn from each other. Grant safe travel to all those coming in and traveling home today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Oh, that's right. You want to hear about me. I'm State Representative Jenny Earhart. I represent the western portion of Cobb County, little bits of Ackworth, Kennesaw, and Marietta. I have been serving in the House now for 6 years, heading into my 4th term. And I serve on, it's a privilege to serve on Chairman Martin's Higher Education Committee and just be able to serve on the leadership team with our wonderful speaker, Speaker Burns.
Good morning. I'm Ray Perrin, Deputy Commissioner for Technical Education for the Technical College System of Georgia. Wrapping up 45 years in education. My first 20 years were in K-12 education in Paulding County. Was classroom teacher, superintendent of schools in Paulding before I came to the Technical College System of Georgia. I've served as president at Valdosta Technical College. Excuse me. Valdosta Technical College, we merged it to form Wiregrass Georgia Technical College back in 2009. From there, I went to Lanier Technical College and served for about 8 years as president there. And thanks to the wisdom of the General Assembly and the governor's office, we were able to build a new campus in Gainesville that served as a great example for what technical education can be in this state. For the past 4 years, I've served as Deputy Commissioner for Technical Education. Was actually at our system office when we made the quarter to semester conversion back in 2009. So very interested in the work of this committee, and thank you for allowing me to be here.
Hello, I'm Stacey Evans. I'm the state representative for District 57, which is all City of Atlanta, all Fulton County. I represent several in-town neighborhoods, wrapping up my 4th year. I did have an earlier trip around the legislative sun from a district in Cobb County. I've always focused on higher education, so I couldn't be more excited to be here and appreciate the speaker putting me in this place. I started at the University of Georgia in 1996 under the quarter system, and then switched and graduated. You'll be glad to know I did graduate under the semester system, and then stayed there for law school. I have 2 kids, a 7th grader and about to be kindergartner, and so I appreciate that this is a really busy time for anyone in education, not just K through 12, but all of you in this room from TCSG and from USG, and really appreciate y'all taking the time to come here and make sure that we get this right. Thank you.
Turn this on. Is this on? Okay. Good morning. It's an honor for me to be part of this committee. Thank you for including me. Ashwani Monga. I'm the Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Academic Officer of the University System of Georgia. But then yesterday I got a new job. So yesterday I started as interim president at the University of West Georgia. And that guy over there who will present soon, Dr. Spiro, is taking over as interim for my role. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and also just in terms of my background, I'm a business school professor, a marketing professor. I also have an appointment as a faculty member at Georgia Tech. Great to be here.
Thank you, Chairman Blackman. My name is Chuck Martin. I represent the 49th District in North Fulton County. It's parts of Roswell, Alpharetta. Well, it's parts of Milton, Roswell, Alpharetta. We neighbor Johns Creek. We're all kind of together up there, so it's a blessing to get to represent an area that you grew up in and your family roots go back to. I chair the Higher Education Committee on the House of Representatives, and never miss an opportunity to thank Speaker Burns for that. But seriously, we serve at the Speaker's pleasure, and he does a great job in allowing our committee members to drive good policy out of committee, Mr. Speaker, and I thank you for that, and I thank you for allowing this committee today on Chairman Blackman's behalf. I will just say this, I never fail to get goosebumps when I come on a campus. I was at Georgia Tech last Thursday, I was at the University of Georgia on Friday, I'm down here at Georgia Southern. I'll see some more campuses this fall. But I think those campuses and those in our technical college system, as good a job as you all do, you're still the best kept secret in Georgia. The one thing the speaker mentioned, every day when I go to bed, what I did good, what I did bad, and what I'm going to get better at. And as a state, if I apply that to to post-secondary education, we do it well. We're continuing to look for ways to get better, but what we don't do well is publicize the opportunities Georgians have. And we hopefully will do that, Chairman Blackman, with this today. We're talking about quarters and semesters, but we're talking about opportunities that people in Georgia, not just traditional high school students, but non-traditional students, people going back in the workplace have. And so I hope we do that every chance we get. And I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to be part of this. Chairman Blackman, to you for doing this. Dr. Moreno, for you hosting us here at Georgia Southern. By the way, good luck this weekend against those blue-colored Broncos coming in from Boise State. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaker Burns, I appreciate the opportunity to serve on this committee. I've been on either higher education or higher education appropriations since I was first elected back in 2004. I think we came in together, and it was great. I represent rural Georgia. I've got 8 counties in rural Georgia. My district stretches from Columbus to Albany, and from the Flint River to the Chattahoochee River. And during the last reapportionment, they tried to give me 2 counties in Alabama, and I put my foot down and said, no, I'm not doing that. But no, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to serve on this committee and to learn. I also went to school under the quarter system, and want to find out what the benefits are, what the history behind the change, and Speaker Burns, I want to thank you for what you said. You kind of expanded our role here, and so I'm looking to the leadership of Chairman Blackman to see where we go from here. But thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and ready to get started.
Thank you all. You see, we have a top-notch team here. My name's Shaw Blackman. I represent the 146th district in the middle of the state in Houston County. Speaker Burns lets me run the Ways and Means Committee meetings during session, and I'm grateful for that. I think it's all been said, but certainly a great excuse to be on college campuses in the fall. It's electric, and with football season kind of looming right over us and down on us. And I know Representative Evans and I have had an opportunity to reflect on quarters and semesters and things many times as we have talked in the chamber about our service and our college experience. So look forward to this. And Dr. Marrero, I hate to ask you to follow Speaker Burns, but I know you were going to welcome us. Thank you so much for providing the venue. Thank you for hosting us. This is a beautiful place to have a meeting.
Here on behalf of Georgia Southern University, I'm Kyle Morrell, the president of Georgia Southern. I want to welcome you to Statesboro and the Gene Bishop Fieldhouse. This is the west end zone of famed Paulson Stadium, the home of Eagle Nation football. In a week and a half, we'll be playing Boise State. At 4 p.m., it'll be 90 degrees, 80% humidity, and they'll be coming from Idaho. I think that's called home field advantage, so there you go. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Chairman Blackman, members of the study committee, my colleagues at USG and TCSG for being here today. I've been asked to provide a few updates and bragging points about Georgia Southern, and that's what I do best, so here you go, right? As of this morning, we started classes on Wednesday. We have record enrollment at Georgia Southern University, 28,125 students in its history, up 7.7% from last fall. Across 3 campuses, Statesboro, Savannah, Hinesville, and online. Online's about 4,000 of those 28,000 students. And of course, we have a campus site at Wexford, as the speaker told you. It's us, Notre Dame, and Boston College that have instruction sites in Ireland. We have 141 programs of study, bachelor's, master's, specialist, and doctoral degrees, and we conferred over 5,300 degrees last year. In the last 5 years, we've conferred over 28,000 degrees. That's more than any other 5-year period in the history of Georgia Southern University. We are home of the 4-time MacArthur Award-winning Eagle Battalion, one of the top 10 non-military institution producers of commissioned Army officers in the nation. We're home of Eagle Nation D1 FBS athletic program, as I said, with 17 intercollegiate sports. We are part of the Sun Belt Conference Group of 5. We are currently designated a Carnegie R2 High Research Activity Institution. Most recently, with a record annual research expenditures and awards of over $43 million in FY24, which puts us in the top 6% of institutions nationally, and already producing over 70 research doctorate degrees, we are on pace to be recognized by Carnegie as an R1 institution by 2028. With our 28,000 students and 3,000 faculty and staff, the economic impact study just came out, and it is record in the history of the institution. Our impact annually to the region is $1.14 billion regionally. Our notable academic programs include logistics and supply chain management, where we're working with industry leaders throughout our region to be a national hub for logistics technology innovation. Engineering, as the speaker spoke of, with bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees across 6 engineering disciplines, and the only manufacturing engineering program in the state of Georgia. We are the largest undergraduate health science college in the state, with over 5,400 majors. Point of fact, 1 out of every 5 undergraduate degree in health professions in the state of Georgia is a Georgia Southern graduate. In fact, our partnership, we cut the ribbon back on July 26 with the Medical College of Georgia, Savannah, at Georgia Southern University, and welcomed 41 new M1s. So excited with that partnership, and thanks to the speaker, to the governor, lieutenant governor, and for you all for your support of the dental school that will be hopefully breaking ground in the next 18 to 24 months and be ready to open in 2028 at our Savannah campus, again with a partnership with the Dental College of Georgia. We launched our first ever comprehensive capital campaign in the history of the institution, and to date we've raised over $110 million in 4 years, and will surpass our $125 million goal before this calendar year is out. In fact, this practice facility that you see right there was built entirely on philanthropic dollars, $12.5 million raised in 18 months. I'm most proud of our public impact research agenda, which focuses on priorities relevant to the impact and growth, as we spoke about, specifically to this region. Those areas of impact, research that has impact and relevance to our region, are advanced manufacturing, logistics and supply chain innovation, sustainable fuels, coastal resilience and sustainability. That means water, which is the coin of the realm for Southeast Georgia, as you know. Holistic fitness and wellness, and vibrant communities where we focus on public health and safety. We are Georgia Southern at the geographic epicenter of what will be a 20 to 30% migration growth over the next 10 years. So it is Georgia Southern that will be delivering the leaders, the graduates that will fuel that economic growth. I want to thank you for being here with us today, and I also look forward to you hearing from my colleagues in the system and some of the innovative ways in which we're serving our students, expediting time to degree, flexibility in our delivery mode and our schedules, and most importantly, graduating students quickly, efficiently, and ready day one for careers. Welcome to Georgia Southern University. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Mero. I appreciate that, appreciate those words, and congratulations on the great success and all that you're doing for Georgia, especially in this region here. At this point, we just have a slight adjustment. I know Cody Allen with CSG was going to give us a little bit of a 30,000 foot view. I do have a hand in the back. We're about to, sir. Well, we have a sign-up sheet, and I would love to have you sign up if you'd like to speak with us here in a little bit as we get through with this agenda. I know first we have the University System of Georgia is going to be speaking to us. Like I said, I think Cody Allen with CSG will be back in a few weeks, maybe at our next meeting, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we get closer to the end. I want to say up first is going to be Dr. Dana Nichols, the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs and Student Success at the University System of Georgia. Dr. Nichols, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and your committee, Speaker Burns, of course, Senator Blackman, for listening to us present on this important topic. I want to thank President Marrero. Always a pleasure to be here at Georgia Southern, any campus really, as you've said in the fall. It's exciting when you are in the system office in Atlanta. You don't get to interact with the students very much, and so it's always wonderful to be on a campus. So thank you to Georgia Southern and President Marrero for hosting us. By way of introduction, I just would say I am Dana Nichols. I serve as Vice Chair of Academic Affairs and Student Success at the University System of Georgia. But I have had the pleasure of serving both at the USG and at an institution within the Technical College System of Georgia. So I've been blessed to be part of both of these amazing systems in Georgia. I was actually a student on the quarter system all the way through my undergrad, so I'm well versed in that. And then my graduate education was on the semester system. And I was a lowly staff member on one of our USG institutions as we were preparing for semester conversion. So I may tell you more than you wanted to know about this topic. Feel free to stop me if I get into the weeds. I'm going to respond to the questions that were given to us as initial questions from the committee, and one of which was what really prompted the transition. And the main overarching thing that we were looking at to prompt the transition within USG was alignment with the majority of higher education institutions across the country. We were looking at national trends. In the 1990s, about 70% of U.S. colleges and universities were already operating on a semester calendar. I can't help but note also that, you know, when you are operating on a semester calendar, your graduates get out with their degrees in early May. When you graduate on the quarter system, your graduates get out in mid to late May or even June. And that means that the semester graduates in the nation were getting to the job market before our graduates were. And if you're anything like my dad was, you know, he wanted me to get into the job market just as soon as I could. So that was another thing that we looked at in terms of the national trends. Currently, moving forward to 2024, about 95% of U.S. colleges and universities are operating on the semester calendar, including all 16 of the Southern Regional Education Board member states. So that kind of sets the stage of what was going on nationally then and what's happening nationally now. I'm going to take you back for a minute to the late 1990s. It's been a minute, right? And that was a time of really rapid technological advancements, and it made it possible at that time to begin to offer what is now known as online classes. We tend to think of online as being something that we did in the pandemic, and it was, but it started much earlier than that, all the way back to the 90s. And this non-traditional type of course delivery was really gaining popularity at this time nationally. So that was another national trend, and many out-of-state students were enrolling in Georgia's online classes. So that also prompted the Chancellor and the Board of Regents at that time to look into implementing a calendar that was consistent with most of the nation's colleges and universities. So that was what prompted it. Now, what were the initial goals or aims? Really, there were three. Improved transferability. I've already mentioned that the majority of the nation was already on the semester system at that time, so our out-of-state students who transferred to a USG institution prior to semester conversion often encountered delays as their transcripts were being evaluated. Back then, it was a mostly manual process, and so the potential for human error was also very high. That sometimes resulted, unfortunately, in transfer students taking some unnecessary courses and delaying their graduation. So the same was true in the opposite of Georgia students who were transferring to out-of-state institutions and that were operating on the semester system. So being on the same system really did improve transferability both into Georgia and out of Georgia. The second kind of main goal was to create a greater efficiency and cost savings. If you're on a campus, you know that there is a admissions, financial aid, enrollment, and graduation cycle for every term. And so for every admissions, financial aid, enrollment, and graduation cycle, there are significant time and effort costs. On the quarter system, our institutions were in these very labor-intensive cycles constantly. It was really heavy administrative lift that offered little time in between for strategic enrollment planning or process improvements, and there were opportunities for greater efficiency in these critical student-facing areas. The last kind of initial goal or aim dealt with the perception, at least, that increased depth of student learning and engagement would occur on the longer semester system. So some research at that time was suggesting, especially for traditional age students, that the longer term would permit students to engage more deeply with course content and result in more long-term knowledge retention. Those longer terms also potentially could provide more opportunity for involvement in extracurricular activities, in research, and in hands-on learning experiences such as internships, clinicals, and practicums. These types of engagements are major factors in a positive college experience and, in fact, major factors in retaining and graduating students. So those were our initial goals and aims. What really was accomplished? Well, we did create a more seamless transfer process for our students, both incoming to the USG and outgoing to other states. We did eliminate one of those cycles that I talked about, the admissions, financial aid, enrollment, and graduation cycle. So we realized some cost savings there. We freed up a little bit more time for strategic enrollment planning and curriculum development, those kinds of things. We also used this opportunity, since we were doing a conversion process anyway, to conduct a holistic review of curriculum. I'm going to give you one example, and I'm not going to name the institution, but I will give you one example. The institution that I was going to try to get my associate's degree, it required no less than 6 PE courses to get an associate's degree. 6. If I had chosen another institution during that same time, I might have only had to have 4, or I might have only had to have 2. So there was a lot of what we call credit creep, right? There was a lot of institutions who, for whatever reason, were requiring different things for the same degree at that time. That became unacceptable, and the Board of Regents charged our institutions and our academic affairs units with thinking through consistency at this time. So that no longer happens. I'm pleased to say everybody is consistent with what the degree requirements are. So we leveraged this transition to engage in that holistic review of curriculum and create a much more standardized core, which is the one that you have seen since fall of '98 in the USG. Okay, challenges. No big conversion like this happens without some challenges. You remember I told you that there was some research at the time that suggested that maybe the semester system engaged students on a deeper level of learning and provided more opportunities for engagement. That may be true, but it's really difficult to assess. I mean, think about where we are today. The students that we had in '98, '99, and the early 2000s, they're very different today. Today we deal with digital natives, technology, this thing. They're used to learning from instantaneous YouTube videos, which is where they expect in the classroom to get that kind of instantaneous response as well. They've survived a pandemic, the worst one since the 1918 Spanish flu, right? So they're a very, very different kind of student, and it's difficult to compare, pre-semester, post-semester on the level of deeper learning and engagement. Another challenge was we did, and we anticipated this at the time, we did experience an initial and temporary enrollment decline as students were shifting and people were trying to take that last summer to get their final credits to graduate, and they were uncertain about entering into a semester system. So we did experience temporary enrollment decline. All of us working on semester conversion anticipated this, and fall 98 enrolled 200,102 students, which was a 2.6% decline. But by fall 2001, enrollment was rebounding to pre-semester numbers with an enrollment of 217,546 students. So you see that it was relatively temporary. The good news, though, is in this chart, it's on graduation rates. Between 1987, which was a decade or so before semester conversion, through 2021, which is our most recent cohort of graduates, you can see there's been a steady increase since semester conversion in completions of bachelor's degrees. So it's not a direct correlation, certainly, but it shows at least that it did no harm in terms of our completers. That little dip you see there towards the right-hand side of the screen, obviously that's the pandemic when we did experience some enrollment declines there. Okay, so I want to talk you through some pros and cons as I conclude. Both systems, and remember I graduated on both systems, they have pros and cons, and many learners will prefer one or will prefer the other. I'm going to take you through a few of the broad pros for quarter system. On the quarter system, I was able to take more courses in a year and explore a wider range of subjects within a year. So I ended up double majoring because I wanted to learn not only English, which is the declared major when I started, I also wanted to learn Spanish. And quarters gave me the opportunity to plug those two things in and graduate with 2 associate's degrees and 2 bachelor's degrees in those 2 disciplines. Another pro is that it's really at a faster pace. The academic year under the quarters is divided into 3 terms, each lasting around 10 weeks or so, and you don't have that week-long fall break right before semesters, right before finals that you do on the semester system. So there's really no lengthy breaks to disrupt the learning. You hit it hard, you learn, you take your final, and then you move on to the next thing. So there's a faster pace there. There's also some flexible scheduling on this quarter system that if students need to drop or add classes for whatever reason, they have more opportunity to adjust schedules through the year. Those are all pros for the quarter system. Cons or challenges include intensity. Having been one of the students on the quarter system as an English major, having to take college algebra, it was a very intense time. That was not my skill set, and it was 10 weeks to learn and pass that class. So I experienced a lot of material covered in a shorter period of time, which was challenging to me because that wasn't my strong suit at the time. There's more frequent deadlines. It seems like we used to joke that every instructor got together at the coffee pot and set their essays due on the same date because there's limited time, and so it felt like everybody was having everything due and all things were coming due at the same time. That can be overwhelming as well, especially when it can interfere with your adult learners who sometimes have some outside of classroom challenges that they're also dealing with. Transfer is another con for quarters. Given that the vast majority of the U.S. was on the semester system at that time, it did complicate the transfer process. Now, what about semesters? Well, semesters, in the same way that you might see a faster pace and a shorter schedule as a pro for the quarter, you might see a lengthier semester term as a pro for some learners, because That semester would last about 15 weeks as opposed to the 10, gives more time to cover the material, complete assignments at a steadier pace so it doesn't feel like everything is coming due all at the same time. In terms of depth of study, well, students do spend more time on each subject, which can be beneficial for subjects requiring deep understanding, like in my algebra example for English majors. Fewer transitions, so you have less adjustment to new professors and new teaching styles. You get to know your professor for longer. It can lead to more mentoring opportunities. Transfer, we've already talked about, is easier on the semester system since now 95% of the nation is on the semester system. And then in terms of flexibility, semesters do have the ability to be divided into mini semesters. So 8 weeks and 8 weeks within the 15-week overarching semester. These appeal to non-traditional learners that are 25 years and above. Now, allow me to give just one example of how our students have really changed since 1999-ish. Between 1999 and 2012, the number of single mothers in college more than doubled. Let me say that again. Between 1999 and 2012, the number of single mothers in college more than doubled. College-going single mothers often need substantial financial aid, and in order to qualify for it, they must be a full-time student, which is often the equivalent of 4 to 5 classes per semester. With all of the responsibilities that go with raising a child, these moms find it very difficult to commit to and be successful in 4 to 5 classes over a 15-week semester. But they can often find a way to balance 2 classes over 8 weeks. By taking 2 classes from August to October and 2 classes from October to December, these moms qualify for full financial aid and are more likely to stay in college and graduate. To some extent, all of our 26 institutions take advantage of this type of flexibility to attract and retain and graduate adult learners. In just a moment, you'll hear directly from a few of our campuses about how they are implementing these mini semesters. We have an initiative at the system office called eCampus, and it is a system-level collaborative to deliver core courses and high-demand e-majors through a systematized collaborative effort pushed out to all 26 of our institutions. And that is also on this mini-mester cycle where you have the first 8 weeks and the second 8 weeks. Very popular and very successful. In terms of cons for the semester system, you do take, fewer courses per year. And, that might limit your ability to explore a wide range of topics like I did with English and Spanish. There's a longer wait, so if students want to switch topics or explore a new interest, they might have to wait a full semester to do so. Many of our students, and President Marrero will know this, are one flat tire away from being out of school and not graduating. And so sometimes if they have to wait so very long before they change up their degree or before they come back in with a new tire and better financial situations, they just stop out and they go to work. So those are some of the things that that students find challenging on the semester system. One thing I want to leave you with is that to reintroduce the same conversion challenges, to reintroduce the conversion back to quarters would introduce the same challenges as we experienced back in the 90s. So we had to undergo, and again, I was on a campus at this time, so I can tell you we underwent a complete realignment of the tuition and fee payment schedule for students, and that was a heavy lift. We redeveloped the advising process for academics. We created new scheduled course times to accommodate the shift from 5 quarter hours to 3 semester hours per week. We revised and widely communicated academic calendars. As you can imagine, there was some confusion among students and parents about what this meant for their children. And so there was a lot of communication around academic calendars and how they would change. We had to update and redistribute publications such as student catalogs and handbooks. We had to develop and launch many communication plans, not just with our current students, but with potential students as well. And then we had to change college university recruitment cycles, which might impact athletic recruitment as well. So these are some of the things that we experienced when we converted to semesters in the first place and would need to be redone if we went over to quarters, just to give you kind of a picture from the campus of what it was like. I appreciate your patience. Mr. Chairman, if you would like, I'm happy to take questions, or I can bring up the next speaker.
Sure. Are there any questions for Dr. Nichols? Chairman Martin?
There were several. I'll hold them, and we'll get back to those. But I wanted to get to the point you brought up that I'm not sure is necessarily on point for this committee, but it makes me go, huh?
Okay.
And that is single mothers doubled. I mean, you mentioned that as, and I'd like, you probably don't have it, but I'd like to know what that raw number is. Is that from 1,000 to 2,000 or 20,000 to 40? I mean, that matters to me. But then when you say financial aid is only available, are you talking about that financial aid coming from the federal government, you know, and so forth?
Yes. So in order to get financial aid, even if it's local scholarships, you have to complete the FAFSA, and so that's federal.
Okay. Because the next question was going to be, I mean, the paradigm has shifted. We have more people that are working. We have more non-traditional students. Seems like it's time that we shift the way we hand out financial aid. Not necessarily the point of this, but sometimes good things come out when we're just talking about it. I mean,
Sure.
if you have a full-time student, I mean, a full-time student, if you're a mom, if you're a single mom, may be those two classes. So just something to think about. And then I'd be interested in drilling down more into the mini semesters, what, you know, some people refer to as Maymester when you're throwing in one extra class as you're getting out. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, and I'd be glad to get that data for you on the raw numbers for the single moms. And you will hear a lot more specifics from my colleagues on various campuses about the mini-mesters.
Dr. Nichols, I think Representative Evans had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for the information. It's wonderful. When Chairman Blackman and I talked about this, how we got here today a lot, because we're both nerdy like that. And one of the things that we talked about was, you know, we hope everyone doesn't think that we're trying to encourage or are hoping for a change necessarily. We want to know, did we get what we bargained for, or were there things that we wanted to do that we didn't get to do, but maybe we could still do, sort of having our cake and eating it too, sort of getting the best of both worlds. And when I hear you talking about the mini-mesters, that's sort of where my head goes. And so my question is, and it sounds like we might get more specifics, but I was wondering how prolific those mini-mesters are and sort of how accepted they are. Are they considered less than? And so there's some stigma to taking those classes, because maybe there's a lot of answers there. We keep what we need to keep so that we don't mess up people that need to move in and out of state. Then why would you ever leave? But we also can address the situation of the changing times, the shorter attention spans that the students have, the situations with single moms and all those things. So maybe that's not you, but I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about that and appreciate anything you can share even now.
So I will share that in the beginning, there may have been a little hesitation about whether all subjects could be accomplished in that 8-week term, but you really have the same, what we call contact hours. You get the same number of hours with the instructor in instruction on that shorter term. It's just a longer class period. And so as more and more students have tested those waters, they've come out successful, word of mouth has spread, and in fact, you know, the accrediting body is very interested in making sure that students get exactly what they're supposed to get, regardless of whether it's spread out over 15 or whether it's condensed into 8. So it's very popular, and it's primarily adult students, but a lot of traditional students these days have what we call non-traditional responsibilities. You know, they are single parents at 22. Just because they're not 25 doesn't mean that they don't have the same kind of time requirements. Maybe they're caring for elderly parents. Maybe they're working 4 jobs on a shift schedule and they can only devote so much time. So we're seeing more and more traditional students engage in that space, and we're tracking their success. They're being successful.
Mistaken, but I believe all our institutions have that option.
That's correct. To some degree, all 26 institutions within the USG do offer that opportunity. Some currently limit it to the graduate class space where most adult learners are on those campuses, but more and more it's spreading, and to some degree you can find that across all 26 of our institutions. Yeah.
And yes, sir, Chairman Hickman is raising his hand.
So we don't necessarily track to that level of granularity. When they do come back in, we track them, but we don't always know the reason why they come back. Sometimes it's not that they couldn't get a job, it's just that they're looking to upskill. And so we don't really track to that level of granularity, but we do track them when they come back. We want to know that we've done a good job and we've brought them back. You're welcome.
If I may add to the answer that you just got, because we do have data on the money people make with an undergraduate degree and a graduate degree. And so by that statistic, we do know that on average, the graduate degree delivers much more. Like for an undergraduate, it's more than $1 million, and for graduate, it's well above that, which tells us that on average, it's definitely adding value, although there would be cases where it may not.
Would you come up and just restate that into the microphone so we'll have it for the record, sir?
My question around that is, should we be doing a better job on the front end with these students of advising them and getting them in the right programs rather than getting them in a program that may not be job, so forth and so on? Because I see that happening even in our world around here. And I know in the technical schools here at Geechee Technical College that probably 5%, if not more, 5 to 10% of their people that attend technical school or college graduates that go back because the degree they had did not provide them with sufficient jobs. That's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Do you have any further comment, Dr. Nichols? Dr. Manga, did you have anything? Am I saying that correctly? Okay.
The advising piece is something that we constantly work on, and it is a challenge, partially because students don't always know when they come in what they want to be. We hear often, you can attest to this, we hear we want to be an engineer, but they're not unaware of what a variety of engineering opportunities are out there, and so we try to do some advising to help them narrow down what that means. Yeah.
Chairman Martin.
Mr. Chairman, I know you're ready to move on. I want to defend the advisors and the university systems a little bit. Sometimes it's the students wanting to get a degree in something and they can't make a living doing it. I mean, you can't convince somebody, and I'm not going to use my Eastern European eye sculpture. Oh, wait a minute, I just did. But I mean, there's people that want to study something because their heart's in it, and they get out and nobody's going to pay them to apply that. And there's no, I just want to defend the university system, even the technical college system, when people go to get a technical college degree that's not in demand in their particular area. It's hard to tell a student, especially a traditional high school student, that what you want to do. I know we heard at the Workforce Summit at Georgia Tech last week, or the STEM Summit at Georgia Tech last week, that some of the troubles we were having there. So I just wanted to defend the university system and the technical college system advisors on that. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them take the course that's going to make a living for them.
Defense of the university system of Georgia.
Thank you.
Already entered into the record. No, Dr. Nichols, I did want to say I skipped over my initial comments, but I don't think the purpose of this study committee is to call for a reset of higher learning in the state of Georgia. Right. I think we do want to take, as we often do on a number of things, is take that look back, take a holistic view, and get an idea of where we were, what progress we've made. Maybe where we could be. And I think you've given us some of that, and we'll hear more of that, I hope, here today. So yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Dr. Shapiro. Did I say that right? Okay, I believe you're up next.
Good morning. Chairman Blackmun, members of the committee, Speaker of the House, state representatives, and President Marrero, on behalf of Chancellor Perdue, thank you for the opportunity to be here. A little bit about myself before we share with you some information related to the topic for today. My name is Costa Spear, and I serve as Interim Chief Academic Officer. As Dr. Monga indicated a few moments ago, he is serving as Interim President at the University of West Georgia. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been in the system office for 2 weeks. So it's been very fast and furious, but I'm very pleased to be with you. Before that, as you could see on the slide, I've served as Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Georgia College State University in 2016, as well as for the last 5 years from 2019 to 2024. So what I'd like to bring here for you today is a campus perspective. Our goal is, and you'll hear from colleagues from other institutions, from Valdosta State University after me and Georgia Southern after that, our goal really is to share with you how different institutions within the system approach this topic of supporting students complete their graduation in an accelerated or providing options for them to complete their studies. Again, all of them are within the semester system, so our approach certainly is grounded around that. So what I'll do is I'll share with you some insights about my institution at Georgia College State University and some of the things that we are doing to work with students and support students to ensure their timely graduation. The first thing I'll share with you is some insights about the institution itself. So we serve about 7,200 students located in Milledgeville, Georgia. It is a residential institution of higher education, and we have a residency requirement. Students have to be on campus for their first year. We are primarily an undergraduate institution, so we serve 18 to 22-year-olds. This is the nature of the organization of the structure of the institution. Very, very similar to the University of Georgia and Georgia Tech in terms of the undergraduate student population. The majority of our programs at the university are professional programs. The majority of the students are in the College of Business and Technology, the College of Education, in Health Sciences, and in Arts and Sciences, they're primarily in STEM fields. So our students are focused in professional programming, and our goal is to support them to be successful. One of the primary goals of our institution is to graduate students in 4 years. So we're structured around that orientation. We do provide a very strong emphasis on preparing students for the workplace and professional and graduate school. And I share all that with you just to frame the type of institution that we're in, and we're just one type of institution within the family of 26 institutions within the University System of Georgia. I'll talk a little bit about our focus, very intentional focus on workplace and professional and graduate school in terms of preparing our students. We do have the third highest graduation and retention rate within the University System of Georgia. And again, that's counted or measured in 4 years and 6 years after Georgia Tech and the University of Georgia. Interestingly, in 2017 and 2018, we had the second highest 4-year graduation in the University System of Georgia. We've heard a few moments ago about the importance of academic advising. We have placed a lot of emphasis, a lot of attention on advising, and we practice what we refer to as an intrusive academic advising program. What really that means is that our academic advisors, when they sense or when they discover that a student is struggling or having a difficult time for a variety of reasons, maybe struggling with their classes or they receive a report from somewhere, our academic advisors are charged with reaching out to that particular student and trying to identify the reason for their difficulty. If a student is struggling in the class and we receive that information from faculty, we'll work with that student, the advisors will work with that student to shift that student maybe in a different class, or maybe have a conversation with a career center. Maybe that's not the right type of orientation. So this is referred to as intrusive academic advising. There's and that's the structure that we employ at the university. Again, that kind of complements very much this notion of getting students to graduate in 4 years. Very much structure around that. That's our goal. I just want to share with you a point of pride. Our pre-med mentoring program has 100% placement for the last 15 consecutive years. So again, It is a testament to the great work that our faculty, our staff, that does at the institution to support students to be successful and achieve their goals. I mentioned a moment ago about our workforce development focus. We are very much focused intentionally to support students develop skills that are critical for their professions. And now what I mean by that, critical thinking, communication skills, analytical skills, teamwork, willingness to deal with ambiguity. And we know that because employers tell us exactly that. When they bring in graduates into their firms or their work environment, they always say we want individuals to be able to deal with ambiguity, be able to communicate effectively. So we're very much organized at the university, very intentional to try to support students in that regard to be successful and create those skills through our curriculum and through various co-curricular experiences. One example of it is leadership programs in nursing. We have a nursing school at the university, so we've integrated into the nursing curriculum leadership development. We recognize that nurses are going to be called upon to serve in leadership roles. So as a result of it, gaining that entry early during their preparation is very, very important for that. And we also have a program called Career Planning Milestones, and the program here is intended to begin working with students from their first year on our campus. So we ask students to participate in the program, to develop a LinkedIn account right from the start, to start to develop that focus towards their career development and their career growth. So again, I'm hoping that I'm providing with you some insights about how the institution is structured in a very much an 18 to 22-year-old format, in a very, what we may refer to as a traditional format to serve our students. However, we're also very mindful of how important it is, and life happens, to support students with alternative options to ensure their degree completion. A few moments ago, you've heard from Dana reference to various other formats. So for example, we utilize a 4-week and an 8-week format at the university. In fact, during the summer, we provide students with a number of options. Some of them include the Maymester. There is a June term, there is a July term, there's a May and June, there's a June and July, there's a full term. So there are a lot of options that the students have either in a 4-week or an 8-week format to be able to accelerate their progress in terms of graduation. And I'm pleased to share with you that this summer we had the highest enrollment in the summer, actually, the summer of students participating in our various 4-week and 8-week formats. So again, it is an opportunity for them to either complete their studies if they have not during the previous semester had all the hours to graduate, or to accelerate progression towards graduation. So that's one alternative option to ensure degree completion. Another option that we utilize are internships. Internships are very, very important for students. So we have a number of short-term internships. Some of them are 4 weeks, some of them are 8 weeks. Again, they could be, the level of intensity could vary, but our students take advantage of this opportunity, again, to accelerate their progress towards graduation. The university has a requirement that 21 of the 30 semester hours upper level courses have to be completed at the institution. However, we realize that sometimes there are challenges with that, so we are often waive that particular requirement if that comes up. We do not want that to be our hurdle for their ability to complete their studies. And the other thing that we do, because of the strong academic advising program there, when we find out that a student is delayed, we have very strong partnerships, for example, with Middle Georgia State University, as well as other institutions across the system, where we support the students towards a transient, to be a transient, so they will take that course at another institution in an 8-week format, and then bring that course to us, part of their transcript. That way, they're not delayed, and they're able to complete their studies within the USG. Independent studies, that is another area that allows students a lot of flexibility within the 16-week semester to be able to work closely with faculty in a more accelerated fashion to be able to complete their studies. The last two items, these are two things that we're working on. And again, while we recognize that we are an institution that's very much structured around the 18-22-year-old, we also are piloting an 8-week courses for graduate programs in our business during this upcoming spring 2025 semester. as well as we're preparing to launch a Bachelor of Science in Management for adult learners in an 8-week format at the institution. So I'm hoping that I shared with you some insights of how we try at a traditional 18, 22 to 22-year-old institution of higher education within the USG. And again, you'll hear from my colleagues from Valdosta State University and Georgia Southern University that those institutions are organized differently and serve a variety of other students too. How we have worked to really provide our students with opportunities within that structure, within a 16-semester orientation, for them to be able to accelerate and to be able to complete their studies and be successful once they contribute to their workplace and to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shapiro. We have any questions from the committee? CNA, I did want to ask you real quick, and I believe I understood this correctly, but you're saying those 4 and 8 weeks are actually the extended course, and just allow the student to move at that faster pace if they choose to do so. Is that right? So that's a full, you're covering the same material.
Absolutely, yes. So the material, as mentioned earlier by Dana too, is exactly the same material. It is a more intense experience on the part of the students. The students are expected to be more committed to the subject matter, to spend lengthier time in their classroom with their faculty member, but that allows them obviously to progress in an accelerated fashion through their studies. So we have students in Maymester, Junemester, July, or a combination of those options.
And you're seeing that utilized?
Absolutely, as I mentioned a moment ago, exactly. It's been, interestingly enough, we had the highest enrollment, and our enrollment has grown during the summer, and this summer we've seen the highest level of enrollment during the, ever really in the history of the university.
Yes, Representative Earhart.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Shapiro. That was a wonderful presentation. One of my daughters is a graduate of your nursing program, and I know that she was absolutely well prepared for her role in a trauma unit in an ER. So I'm a big fan of not only your school but your nursing program as well. And I remember her taking some of these accelerated courses, and you have quite a variety here. So there's the May, there's the June. You said there's a combo May-June, right? There's the June-July. Would you say one of the biggest benefits of these extra, shorter, more enhanced and more accelerated programs would directly relate that to the ability of allowing those students or enabling them to maybe stick to that 4-year completion rate? Do you see they find themselves maybe getting a little behind and they utilize these shorter terms to just essentially to catch up?
Absolutely, absolutely. The students have an opportunity to utilize those options in a variety of different ways. Obviously, that's one of them. They're able to accelerate and then, or to catch up in terms of how they're doing in the previous semesters. Sometimes students will decide they want to retake a course, for example, for whatever reason. That may be an option there for them to do that. Students are able to obviously accelerate or to find themselves, though we do find students that come in with a lot of prior credit. They do bring a variety of other AP, for example, et cetera. So it's just utilized in a lot of different ways, but we provide multiple options for them. And I'm glad to hear that your daughter had a great experience at the School of Nursing.
I like to say we are, it is a semester system, but it's a bit of a hybrid in a sense, is it not?
Exactly, exactly. It's a bit of a hybrid, exactly. Yes.
Chairman Martin.
You shouldn't have invited me if you didn't want a question. So following that theory, and we touched a little bit last week when we were together.
Yes.
I like that. You're catering to students what they need. I have a question about that. How does that work for Hope Hours, and then how does the grades go together? I mean, if you make an A in a mini-mester, is that the same as an A in a full semester? Because you're covering the same course, you're just doing it at consolidated time, so it's the same thing. It's the same.
Absolutely.
Hope Hours, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that answers that question. So if we're doing that, the next step, and this is a bit outside Chairman Blackman's scope, but the next step is, you're going to hear me, is the competency-based stuff. Okay, so why, if it can be 15 or it can be done in 8, if you have somebody that's really after it to get after it, why can't they do it in 6 for the next thing, or the next higher ed committee meeting that we can actually focus on that? I'd love for you to think about that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do think that that's possible. I mean, I think it depends on the structure and the organization. I mean, I think that certainly would require that faculty, or we're engaged in restructuring the curriculum And in doing so, you could have obviously 8-week terms, 4-week terms. You can integrate a number of those. You have to obviously engage the curriculum to be organized in that manner and achieve that, because ultimately, as you indicated, Chairman Martin, in the very end, the credit is the same credit. The outcome is exactly the same outcome. So that would be the case. Dana?
So yeah, to that I would add on the transcript, there's no distinction if a student takes a 4-week course versus a 15-week course, because all of the competencies are jammed into the shorter term. And so on the transcript, there's no difference. And we can accelerate, but it's not for every student, right? Some students are, as you said, getting after it, and they're going to, go through this. And the Maymester is a 4-week course, right?
But they're probably taking one class, and they're not taking, well, they could be
They
taking
could
more
be.
than one, but they're probably not taking a full 5 classes. And
Correct. And the beauty of the semester system is that they don't have to be full-time, because, you can take 2 at one time, 2 at one time, and that's going to give you a full-time load. So I wanted to add the bit about the transcript, because once they get their transcript, there's no denotation that it's a shortened term.
Thank you.
One quick observation to make to that is that in the very end, courses are structured around learning outcomes, and that's basic. So the question becomes, how do you complete the learning outcomes, and how long does it take to complete the learning outcomes? So as long as the learning outcomes are completed, obviously that's the goal and that's the purpose of it all, regardless of the seat time, for example. Seat time should not be an issue related to that.
Mr. Representative Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I and others really fall in love with these mini-mesters, I had 2 questions popped into my head.
Sure.
One, I noticed that these are summer focused. And so I was wondering, is there some reason that they're not so easily done during the fall and spring? And do you have pushback from professors in wanting to cover those courses?
I think you'll discover that other institutions have moved into that space in terms of during the semester. Certainly I framed the type of institution that we're in. Obviously, that's not something that historically or culturally or the structure and the purpose of the institution is aimed at. However, this is something that we're exploring. I mentioned earlier that we're doing that during the year for business programs, graduate business programs. We're looking also at an undergraduate bachelor's of science degree in that area. That would be 8 weeks. So it's a matter of moving into that particular space, but requires a rethinking, a reorganization of how you approach that. But it is certainly very, very possible. I think typically comes into stages, or you move into that space.
Well, because one thing, the single mother number is in my head earlier, and I'm just thinking, because I have school-age children and I have logistics on my brain, I'm thinking if I'm a single mom, the easier time for me to take classes is going to be when my kids are in school, which means taking advantage of those summer courses is not, while it's great that it's there, it's definitely not the most convenient time for a single mom, would be my guess.
Yeah.
If I may add, Representative Evans, we do have, like Dr. Nichols mentioned, our eCampus, which is our online delivery across the state, and it's not limited to the summers. So you can have, for your core classes, you can take it in these chunks instead of the whole thing. And many of institutions also have these A, B semesters and regular semesters as well.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you, Dr. Shapiro. I appreciate that very much. I had a similar question. I mean, if you're rushing to get a regular length course done in 4 weeks, are you going to be able to move on after that 4 weeks, or just wait till everybody else finishes? And then, I'm sure that's all been thought of. I have a dozen questions like that, but I'll catch you offline.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continuing today with our emphasis on the university system, we have Dr. Schleikus. Am I saying that correctly? David, I'm sorry, Dean of the College of Education and Human Services at my wife's alma mater, Valdosta State University. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, study committee members and members of the audience. Very glad to be here today. As mentioned, my name is David Schleikus. I'm the Dean of the Dewar College of Education and Human Services at Valdosta State University. We really appreciate the chance to be here this morning and provide a perspective on some of the ways that Valdosta State is meeting student needs within the traditional semester system and through VSU's new online college for career advancement, which we will call ACA, and I will explain in much greater further detail. As dean of one of the largest colleges and the most popular ACA degrees, I am presenting today, but I want to introduce a couple of members from VSU that are with me here that play integral roles in the things that we will cover. Kevin Oberlauer, he is our Chief Information Officer and Director of ACA, and Merritt Wall, our Chief Government Relations Officer. So before I get started, I just want to say a little bit about Valdosta State overall. President Marrero, when he was here earlier, set the bar very high for bragging on a university with all of his facts and figures on Georgia Southern. But I would like to remind you, you can actually go farther south in Georgia, and there is another university down there, Valdosta State University. Valdosta State University is a regional comprehensive university. We have a service area of 41 counties. That stretches all the way from the Atlantic coast to Alabama, all the way across South Georgia. Those 41 counties actually comprise 31% of the area of the state of Georgia is our service area. And for those people down there, we are providing the professional and general education needs that they have. We have around 100 degree programs for students to choose from. Our enrollment is up this year. I'm excited to announce that. That enrollment number is actually from 2023, but we are up a little bit higher over that 10,000 number again for 2024. And we have a major economic impact on South Georgia with over $410 million per year. Additionally, I would like to focus more particularly on the College of Education and Human Services. My college has been up the last 2 years. Last year, we were up over 10% in student enrollment. This year, we're looking like we're going to be up over 8% again, so we're very excited about that. And one of the reasons I really believe that we're up in enrollment year over year the last 2 years is because we have been very flexible and meeting the needs of our learners by providing the opportunities that they need and meeting them where they are. I have a few illustrations of that for you. For one, we have counseling education programs. Our counseling education programs are for people who are getting a master's in either school counseling or clinical counseling. These people are all working professionals. So within our semester format, they are taking a hybrid degree program. So most of their work is online. However, for 5 weekends each semester, they gather at Valdosta State and they take classes face-to-face on Friday nights and Saturday all day. So that gives them that face-to-face experience that they need while they're working through their counseling experience, but also allows them to continue to work in their day jobs. Our graduate programs in education have really exploded over the last couple of years, and one of the reasons for that is that we plan those to start in the summer because our schedules are essentially in sync with the K-12 schools. So we front load those students when they come in. They start in the summer, they take a heavy load in the summer, and then when they move and go back to school and we go to our traditional fall and spring semesters, we lighten up the load a little bit, and so we have them on pace that they can move through that with a heavier semester in the summer, and they move through, and that has been very successful with our graduate programs. One of the things that we are launching at Valdosta State is VSU 2030, and at the top of that is to produce career-ready graduates. And part of that is really getting our students out in the field early and often. For our programs in my college, we have students in counseling, speech pathology, marriage and family therapy, social work, teaching. All of these get out in the field and have placements. These placements can range from 2 weeks to 16 weeks across the entire semester. So we have that flexibility to get the students out there as much as we can, getting them that real world experience so that they are ready to go. And lastly, the thing that I'm going to highlight the most is really our online elementary education degree, which is part of ACA. But before I get to that degree and specifically, I want to tell you just a little bit about ACA. And again, I apologize for using the acronym. Once you get used to it on a campus, that's all it ever comes to, and you forget honestly sometimes what it stands for. It is the Online College for Career Advancement. This program was approved by the Board of Regents in 2021. However, I think it's very important to note that the planning for ACA, for this online college, began in 2019. And I want to say that specifically because it began pre-pandemic. This was not something that grew out of the pandemic. This was something that we were looking at and we were considering before the pandemic. And why do I make that point very clear? Because this is an online college. And so while all the courses are online, it was not developed because we figured out we could do this over the pandemic, but it was because we saw a need. The need that we saw in 2019 was that at that time, our study showed us that there were 65,000 Georgians who had some college credit, did not have a college degree. However, they were enrolled in online courses at either out-of-state universities or online for-profit universities. Our data right now is telling us that number has grown from 2019 to now from about 65,000 Georgians to about 80,000 Georgians. So we saw that need and we wanted to step in and fill that need. So we developed a plan to offer high demand degrees at a fixed price credit cost to alleviate workforce shortages and offer career development and advancement. So we did our research. We looked at what areas had the highest workforce demand, and that's where we came up with this list of 8 majors that you see in front of you. As part of our research, we also looked at what is the best way to offer these courses to these students. And what we found was the best way to offer these courses to these students was in 8-week chunks. So these courses, all of the classes in this ACA, in all 8 of these majors, all of the classes are fully online, fully asynchronous, and 8 weeks long. So as we've talked about, as you've heard, we take our traditional semester. There's an A term at the beginning, there's a B term in the second half, and the courses either run for the A term or the B term in the spring semester and the fall semester. And as Dr. Nichols referenced, a fully enrolled student or a full-time student would be taking 2 courses in the A term, 2 courses in the B term, so they're getting their 4 courses across the entire semester. As you can see on the slide, this has been tremendously successful. We rolled this out. Our first enrollment of students was in the fall of 21 with 199 students at that time. As of yesterday, when we started, yesterday was the first day of classes at Valdosta State, we had 1,473 students enrolled. So in 3 years, from 199 to 1,473. I'm excited to share with you that 88% of that 1,473 are Georgia residents. So we are going after that target population that we saw as a need, and we are starting to make some inroads into that. Despite the fact that we're only 3 years into this, because most of these students are coming to us with some college credit, we have already begun to graduate students out of these 8 programs, and so we've already graduated 204 students. As I mentioned, the basic format for this is that 8-week asynchronous online course. However, over the course of this last 3 years, we have been listening to our students. And again, as Dr. Nichols referenced, we have heard that some of these courses, particularly English and math that they are taking as part of their core, they feel are rushed and difficult sometimes in that 8-week format. So we are piloting full 16-week courses as an option for students if they want to take that as well. So we're trying to really listen to our learners, figure out what they need, and meet them where they are. In addition, the student teaching, which is part of the online elementary education program that I'm going to talk about in more detail here in a second, is also a full 16-week experience. So as we think about the online elementary education degree here, I want to make a couple of points really clear. First of all, this is absolutely equivalent to our face-to-face education program that we're offering to our 18 to 21-year-olds that are on campus. It is offered in a totally different format, but we are meeting all of the same requirements. It is not a shortcut. It is not an easier path. They're meeting all of the same requirements of the Georgia PSC to become licensed teachers. And with that, I'll show you a short video to introduce the program.
You get the same GACE pass rate, or is it, do you have longitudinal data long enough to comment on that?
Not yet, but I mean, overall, they're essentially all passing.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've always loved working with kids. Maybe even now you find yourself in settings where you're helping kids learn about the world. Maybe you are thinking about upping your game and doing more with your passion. Maybe you have realized that you want to follow your passion to educate the next generation. We know you are out there looking for a way forward, and we built a program just for you. We've designed an online degree program that is work and military friendly and able to accommodate students stage of their lives.
Online learning has made it much easier to achieve my goals for the main fact of I wouldn't have been able to go back to school and finish my complete degree if it weren't for the program. My husband works a shift work schedule. My children are 9 and 4. So a full-time mom, a full-time wife, and with my full-time paraprofessional position, online learning has made it possible. I see myself in the future teaching tiny humans Monday through Friday while being able to enjoy the same schedule my girls have. From the education department head at Valdosta State University to my advisor and the undergraduate enrollment coach, we have received check-ins weekly. They make sure our finals are going well, check in and see if we need a computer at home. We get a lot of support.
With our program, you'll take 2 classes at a time in 8-week sessions, and our program is entirely asynchronous, meaning you can plan your coursework around your schedule. Our program is one of the most cost-effective in the nation, with all-inclusive tuition, covering fees, books, a computer, and the credentialing tests you'll need along the way. And our program is backed by a robust brick-and-mortar university, Valdosta State University, with staff and advisors that can assist you on your educational journey. This is an online program, but it offers a variety of field placements for experiential learning, and you'll have access to a placement coordinator to assist you in finding one that works for you. We've also taken special care to accommodate those already working in educational settings, such as parapros, so that your work experience can work for you. Ignite your ambition. Achieve your goals.
Thank you. So if you look at who is enrolling in this elementary education degree program, here's a profile of an average applicant. It's a 27-year-old female. They're bringing about 44 hours of previous college credit, but those 44 hours have been pretty well done at an average GPA of 2.93. One of the things I'm most excited about is 42% of those students are first generation. So we're getting the first person in their family through to a college degree. So what kind of impact is this degree program having? Well, if you look at the numbers, we started in the summer of 21. We enrolled 2 students in this online education program. This fall, again, this number is as of yesterday, it may have gone up. We have 457 students enrolled in this elementary online education degree. 94% of those students are in good standing or on the dean's list, and we have graduated 2 groups of students, both in the last December and this spring. And that's really what the important part is that we are starting to graduate students out of this program. If you think about the impact, if you look and you remember our region that we serve at Valdosta State, that rural South Georgia, it is very difficult to get a pre-service teacher who graduates from a program in Atlanta, who graduates from a program here, to move to rural South Georgia to take a teaching position. It's hard to get our students from Valdosta to move to rural South Georgia to take a teaching position. However, there are people in those districts and in those classrooms, the paraprofessionals who are there, and they have the opposite problem. They can't leave the region to go get the degree. So we are bringing the degree to them through this online program. There is an economic impact that might be double what you think it is. If you take a paraprofessional, and we'll speak in just very general terms, they may be making around $20,000 annually. Now we credential them, we get them to be a full classroom teacher, and they're going to be making roughly $40,000 a year. You've doubled their salary, you have a $20,000 impact on that rural area. However, you've also opened up that paraprofessional job where they were, so now there's an additional job with another $20,000 worth of impact. So every student, every paraprofessional that we graduate out of this program and move from paraprofessional to a classroom has a $40,000 economic impact on these small rural communities. But the economic impact is not the important part. The important part is what is the impact we're having on the K-12 students. If you look at studies over and over and over, you will see one of the largest factors on influencing a K-12 student's success in the classroom is their classroom teacher. To have a qualified classroom teacher in there produces significant gains in student success that are realized year over year. So I just want to close with a quote and a story from one of our graduates out of our first class, Sarah Lambert from Eccles County. She was a paraprofessional in a first grade classroom, and this is what she told us. She said, if I had to quit being a paraprofessional to get a degree, I would have lost my insurance. My husband owns his own business, so we depend on my insurance. This program at VSU works great if you're already a paraprofessional, and you can work it out with your school, and you can do both. We keep the students employed throughout the program. We turn them into classroom teachers. We are meeting them where they are through the system that we have in place, and we are very excited about some of the things that we are doing at Valdosta State. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have, and VSU stands ready to be a resource as you move forward.
Thank you. Dr. Slikhuis, I get that a little bit better that time.
Yes.
Are there any questions? Yes, Representative Earhart.
Dr. Slikhuis, I just want to say, I know you didn't invent this model, but you certainly have perfected it. I mean, this is impressive.
Thank you.
It just does my heart good to know what you're doing is you're delivering a needed service, and you're taking it to Georgians where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of our students are exactly like this young woman. They're non-traditional.
Yes.
So it's just a very impressive program. I'm very proud of you and your institution.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anything further, Representative Evans?
Yeah, I echo that. It's very inspiring, especially when you look at 42% of these students are first generation college.
Yes.
It just warms the heart. Do you have numbers on, did all of these folks that came in as paraprofessionals or whatever, were they able to get the next level job?
Well, we've only graduated two groups. Our first graduates were in December, and so far what we're seeing, yes, they are moving basically directly, often in the same school system, from paraprofessional to classroom teacher. Yes.
I don't see any more questions from the committee. Thank you, Dr. Slikhuis. I appreciate you being here, and thank you for the presentation. I think we have one final presenter here today. Scott Taylor here. There you are, Scott. Assistant Vice President of the Student Experience here at Georgia Southern University. Turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Blackman, and committee members, and also our distinguished guests. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to be here with you today. And I'll start off by thanking Chairman Martin for defending academic advisors. So my so my previous career was in international affairs, but when I moved over to higher ed, my first job in higher ed was as an academic advisor for the nursing program here at Georgia Southern University. And I have to say, making that move was one of the best decisions that I've made in my life. So as the Assistant Vice President for Student Experience, I started in academic affairs, but ultimately what my job is now is I provide oversight of the entire student life cycle, from initial inquiry all the way through alumni status. Right? So in doing my job, I utilize process mapping and journey mapping to identify critical touch points for students along the student journey. And I gather student feedback, I conduct surveys, I meet with students in person, and we work with students to help us identify what matters to them most and how it is that we're doing in those areas. So a lot of my job is managing organizational change and working to build a culture of service. And Georgia Southern is certainly an innovative space. We are a change environment, and I'm grateful for this opportunity today because this is part of that process, is having that discussion, gathering information, becoming informed, doing our due diligence, looking at systems and identifying, it's not monolithic. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can say, you know what, there are benefits from this model and there are benefits from this model, and we can hybridize that and we can take advantage of really both things. So I thank you for the work that you're doing and for doing your due diligence for our students across the state. So in that spirit, I titled this simple slide deck. There's no video today. It's called Being Student-Centered, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So I'm thinking back to a meeting I had recently with a large group of faculty and staff here at Georgia Southern, and I started out the conversation by asking two questions, and they're just things to think about. I said, are most students today adequately prepared for college? Are they on time? Are they on task? Do they produce a good quality of work? Are they engaged? Are students today ready for college? And I just kind of let that sit so that we could think about it, because I think it's been alluded to that we're dealing with a different population of students today. We're not really dealing with what you might have thought of as a traditional student population really even 10, 20 years ago. As society evolves, as we move forward, needs change. Circumstances change, right? So the next thing I asked them, because you could kind of get a feeling that people recognize that there are some challenges for students, really not just in higher ed, but across the board. And I said, is that their fault? Is that because of things that were within their control? And I think we can all recognize that the answer to those things is no, right? So then I asked a different question. I said, are we as institutions adequately prepared for students today, right? And that's kind of how we kick off our work and our thinking about why it is that we look into these things, why it is we search for answers, and why it is that we come together to share knowledge, to have our own exercise in collective learning, so that we can improve the student experience and so that we can ultimately be student-centered. So now that we've done this, let's go ahead and we'll go into the slide deck. We're going to talk about really 4 different things. We're going to talk about academic terms, and I've got a great, it probably looks like hieroglyphics when you see it, but I'll explain it. But we're going to talk about mini-mesters. We're going to talk about course options and different modes of learning that are available for our students here at Georgia Southern. We're going to talk about experiential learning opportunities, things that we can do to inspire students to help to get them engaged, and some unique opportunities that are available. And then we're going to talk about personalized support and how it is that we help align the data, the technology, and the people to meet all learners' needs. So that's where we're going to go today. All right, so I mentioned hieroglyphics right here. So if you look at this section that's here in the center, you can see there are 3 different modalities that I've listed here: in-person courses, online synchronous courses, and online asynchronous courses. You see this is a 16-week timeline, and what you're looking at are the different modes of learning that are available across a 16-week fall semester. I actually intentionally didn't use the summer semester because I wanted people to see what mini-mester opportunities look like within a regular term. So you see 2 8-week mini-mesters listed in there, and I've also listed the range of credit hours that are available for students within those times. It's already been said that really if you're taking credit hours within a mini-mester, those are equivalent. It just means an increased rigor, increased expectations, within a shorter period of time. But you can see that the full-term students, full-time, the range is 12 to 18 hours. Anything more than that you would require basically an override or approval. But in an academic year within this model, a student could maintain full-time status and take anywhere from 24 to 54 credit hours. So the accelerated course formats will allow students to complete classes in shorter time frames. It allows for that scheduling flexibility. Mentioning, Representative Evans mentioned, maybe for a parenting student, the summertime might not be the most ideal, but here within a regular semester, there's that availability, there's that flexibility. And this is ideal for students who are either looking to fast track their degrees. Technically, in this model, if you maximized the available range of credit hours as a student, you could complete a degree in 2.5 years over what would be 7 sequential semesters, which would include summers. And we do also have 5-week mini-master terms within the summers. But it's this range of flexibility that allows students to tailor their program of study to meet their individual needs. So in talking about course flexibility, I know most people are probably familiar with this. Dr. Perrin mentioned that he's been in higher education for 45 years, and I was like, what am I doing here? There isn't anything that I can really teach you all that you probably don't already know, but we of course have our online synchronous courses, and sometimes we have what are called technology assisted courses, and that's just where most of the engagement is done online, but it is done in real time. So I've had the opportunity to teach courses, via Zoom. I've taught hybrid courses where half of my class is actually in the classroom and the other half of my class is on looking a bit like the Brady Bunch on a large screen, and we're engaging in that way, because that for some people, that's a better mode of learning. A lot of times they can't always come on site, but they do want that engagement, they want that conversation, and that's an important part of the learning experience for them. But then there's online asynchronous, of course, where you might have modules that are built out, you have certain assignments that are done. The level of real-time interaction is more limited in those. And then you have hybrids, which can be a blend where you might have some interaction, maybe half, and then other parts where it's done asynchronously. But the idea is to have these different modalities to provide for flexibility that aren't just about schedule, but that are about learning styles, because different learners have different preferences. For me personally, I'm a little bit old school. I love an in-person class. There's just a dynamic and a level of engagement that I really enjoy out of that. It's very fulfilling. So, but for different learners, I know I have some friends who have graduated with engineering degrees from Georgia Southern, and for them, they're happy, locked away working on Calc 2 by themselves. And so, every learner sort of has their options and can sort of, make their own story. So unique experiences. So of course, one of the things that we want to do is we want our students to be career ready day one, right? Part of that is we're starting to see the embedding of internships within academic programs. So the College of Behavioral and Social Sciences here is doing that. We already have that within the School of Health and Kinesiology here. So our exercise science majors have the option of their final semester being fully immersive in an internship. We feel like that's a good way to help students to build connections and to network and to recognize sort of what the professional environment looks like for them. You see there's a sort of see-through photo there on the right of our international campus in Wexford, Ireland. So this is study abroad opportunities that we have available here at Georgia Southern. We do have a campus in Wexford, Ireland, and traditionally we have done 5-week and 8-week mini-mesters. We've also done full summer terms there, but this program is expanding. We actually just entered into a partnership with the city of Wexford, where an old abandoned abbey is being turned over to us and is being converted into university housing. Now, the reason why we're engaging in this is the idea is that at some point, for the same cost that a student can live on campus and study at Georgia Southern Statesboro campus, they would be able to go and live and study at our campus in Wexford, Ireland. And we think that that's really transformative in making that study abroad opportunity more accessible and something to sort of excite students, get them thinking about it and getting them more engaged. But an important component of making this campus sustainable and making this something that we can do is that mini-mester model and being able to carve out periods of time where faculty can commit to instruction and where students can work it into their program of study. Because for some students, they may not be able to have a full 12 hours at the Wexford campus to maintain full-time eligibility, but they might be able to take a couple classes for a 6-week mini-mester while also taking, the other portion of the semester here in Statesboro, or utilizing one of our asynchronous online options. Then we also have executive programs, and our executive programs are designed for working professionals, often executive level. We have our executive MBA, and we're embedding experiential learning. So part of the curriculum ends up becoming, through mini-mesters, the ability to have some sort of experiential learning component embedded into the programming. And then the last part is I wanted to talk about this personalized support. So of course, the more that we have students sort of learning in the online space, we've got to make sure that our resources are accessible to them. So the same services that students can take advantage of academically on site are also available in the virtual space. So, online academic advising, help with registration, academic success coaching, where if I'm a student and let's say I've got some really serious goals and I want somebody to help keep me accountable to those goals, right? You can create an academic improvement plan and you'll have a success coach that will follow up with you on a weekly basis to help to keep you on track, right? The next, we have tutoring. Tutoring at Georgia Southern is available 24 hours a day. We actually partnered with a third party that has phenomenal online tutoring, and as a part of that, we bought a bank of hours that any of our students can access. So if you run into that wall when you're working on your calculus homework at 9 at night, there is somebody that can help get you through that problem so that you can move on and complete the assignment. We also make sure that any of our sort of auxiliary services, any of our things like the bursar's office, the financial aid office, any of those resources are available to online students. And we do have that in a singular space, and recently established the Institute for Online Learning, which is going to be housed under the provost office, and it's really creating a singular resource space for students so that they can get that support that they need in a way that's easy. Of course, we're expanding this to include support that we have for different constituent organizations, different groups. So, for example, our military and veteran services, we're making sure to onboard them and get them their own dashboard and make that accessibility available to specific populations. So, with all of these things, the idea again is that we're wanting to be a student-centered campus, right? A student-centered university. Thinking back to that question, are we as institutions adequately prepared to meet the needs of students today? And I can say that while the answer to that, because of the evolving needs of students, may never be 100% yes, we are certainly moving in the right direction, and an important component of this is the flexibility that we are able to provide our students, the options and the choices that we are able to provide our students through having mini-mesters, summer terms, and a number of different modalities available. Again, we want to be able to help leverage the talent and the resources in our students to serve our communities and to contribute to really the spreading of a culture of service throughout this region and the state. So I thank you all for your work in this, and happy to support you in any way that I can. So thank you.
That was very nice. Thank you. A lot of good stuff going on there. Do we have any questions for Mr. Taylor? Obviously very thorough.
Thank you all.
It's good to see you again, Scott.
Good to see you too.
Appreciate you presenting. Yes, sir. I know we had a sign-up sheet in the back. Was it? Oh, we've got it here, so I don't see anybody signed up. I believe the gentleman that was here earlier left shortly after he spoke. We were going to try to make some time for him, but hopefully maybe another occasion. Just a little bit of housekeeping. But before that, are there any closing thoughts from committee members? Anybody have any closing thoughts or statements, questions? No? The presentations from today will be available on the House website. Please think about and feel free to share with Molly or myself any questions to consider as we move forward. Today was an emphasis on the university system. We will, at our next meeting, be more of an emphasis on the technical college system. That will be Thursday, September the 19th in Americus, as it's set right now. And then we will have a wrap up, and we'll hear from some other institutions on Tuesday, October the 8th in Milledgeville. And we'll get meeting notices out as soon as we finalize those agendas. I do want to thank again everybody for being here. Appreciate all the presenters. Appreciate Georgia Southern. I want to thank we want to thank Molly and Alex and Jacob and Justin. Sorry, and Michael. I'm sorry, all of y'all, for keeping us straight almost today here, and Brian Harris, who did a great job getting everything ready. Brian, do you want to take a minute and go over? Is he back there still? I think he's. You want to take a minute and go over what we're doing from here? All right, that sounds great. Thank you, Brian. Anything further? I don't hear anything. Okay, we'll adjourn.